Hello, hello. It's Mrs. Madsen, ready for another math lesson with me, the math teacher that, of course, I have problems. Of course, I have issues and I make mistakes. I'm a math teacher. That's the way it works. Today, we are going to be finding the volume of rectangular prisms. I'm going to give you another recipe. This time, the recipe will make volume cake. And this is what I want us to start out with. There is a video at the beginning of this lesson that I want you to watch, just the first 3 minutes of it. And there will be parts in your notes that I want you to fill out. But what he's going to explain is why is it units cubed when we're finding volume and not units squared like we did with surface area. So once you've got that figured out, let's move on. So how can you find out how many cubes can fit inside a rectangular prism? That's the volume. The volume is figuring out how much can go inside of something. The surface area was like the wrapping paper around it or the paint covering it. But now I want to know how much can go inside. And there's the recipe for that, or the formula. The formula is volume equals length times width times height. The length, the width, and the height. If you multiply all of them together, you will have the volume. And the first hint today is to remember that it is always in cubic units. So if we're talking inches here, we're going to say that the answer will be inches cubed or cubic inches. Either way, it is correct. It just needs the 3, and the video talked about why. So here's a helpful tip number 2. Use a calculator. You're going to be multiplying 3 numbers together. So use a calculator so you don't have to go through all of that work. Yes, 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 I've taught you how to multiply numbers, even decimals and fractions together. But because you can now use a calculator, use that calculator. All right, so if it says find the volume, let's use a formula. Whoa, my iPad fell and went all funky. Let's try that again. So volume equals length times width times height. Okay, the length is the longer one on the bottom. The width is the shorter one. And the height is how tall it is. Now, because I'm telling you to use a calculator, the way I want you to put that in your calculator is 6 times 5.25. Why? Because 1/4 is the same as 0.25. Remember that? Times 9.5. Why? Because 1/2 is the same as 0.5. Okay, once you plug that into your calculator, you are going to get 6 times 5.25 times 9.5, and you're going to get 299.25, or if you want to put it back as a fraction, 1/4 cubic feet, cubic feet or feet cubed. Both of those are the correct answer. Okay, so here's another tip for you. Because you're multiplying 3 numbers together, don't be alarmed if your number ends up being ginormous. Because when you multiply, it multiplies, right? It gets a lot bigger. So for this, we have a length times a width, which is 10.5 times a height. Now, do you have to worry and be like, oh, is 15 the length or the width or the height? I don't know. Is it going to be wrong if I do it this order? Absolutely not, because of the commutative property of multiplication, which says the order does not matter. So as long as you have your 3 numbers, your length, width, and height, if they throw in another number in here, don't use it. That's the raisins. We don't use those. We want the length, the width, and the height. Okay, but after you have those 3 numbers, it doesn't matter the order. If you want to plug it in and experiment with your calculator, you're going to get the same answer no matter what order you put it in. So 10.5 times 25 times 15, 3,937.5. Yeah, there is almost 4,000 cubes that will fit inside of this right here, because it's a whole 10 inches, 15 inches, and 25 inches. And the cubes we're putting inside are just an inch, a cubic inch. So yeah, that makes sense that you could put in a whole bunch of them, because we can have, we're gonna have 25 inches just in the height, right? Because it's 25 inches tall. We're gonna have 15 inches across, 15 cubes across, and 10 cubes going this direction. So that's gonna be a lot of cubes that's going to fit inside. That's why I'm not worried. That's why I'm not surprised that it's a 3,937.5 inches cube, okay? All right, here's your final tip for the day. Sometimes the formula you might see written a little differently. You might see the formula written like this, and you're like, hold on, I thought it was length times width times height. What's up with this B right here? Well, when you do length times width, what is that the recipe for? Isn't that the recipe for a rectangle? Yeah, we call it base times height, right? But it's just your length times your width. So sometimes they're going to give you the area of the base of the bottom. So that means they've already done the length times the width. They've already found out that there are 8 meters squared here on the bottom. Do you see how it's squared? So they've already done the length and width part of it. And that's what the area of the base is. So the only thing you need to do now is times it by the h. So we're going to go 8 times 4.5, and that is going to be 8 times 4.5 equals 36 cubic meters. Okay, so we're going to do 8 times 4.5. All right, so here's another example where you need to find the volume. You have this, you have your height, you have your width, but then you have this. And this is not your height or your length or your width, is it? It's pointing to this gray part right here. Well, that is because that is your area. It is the yard squared. So they've already done the length and width part of the formula. Now all you have to do is the height. The length and the width they found out is 3 1/3. So 3 1/3 times, all we need is the height. We don't need this right here because that is that, and we've already times it by that to get the base right there. So now we just need the height. Okay, now this one's kind of hard to put in a calculator because it's 0.333333333. It goes on forever, correct? I don't want to put that on my calculator because I'll be here all day. So I might just go around the world and get 10 thirds times 6 and simplify that, and I get 20. Okay, now let me show you what would happen if you calculator if you tried to do that. So if you did 3.3333333 times 6, eventually you would do times 6, you would get, oh look, it got to 20. So that might be good. But if you just do like 3.3 times 6, it's not going to get you quite to 20. So you can either do it, put lots of 3's in and see if it works for you, or you can just do it by you do know how to multiply fractions. Okay, so the correct answer though is 20 yards cubed. You can put 20 cubes inside of there. Find the volume. So sometimes fractions don't look very pretty with a calculator. You can leave them as fractions, but still use a calculator. So let's do it both ways here. 3/8, if you remember. If not, then you can fraction hating troll it, right? Or you can put in your calculator 3 divided by 8. 3 divided by 8 equals 0.375. So you could go 0.375 times 0.375 times 0.375. Or you can go 3 times 3. I'm going to use a different color now. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. 8 times 8 times 8 is 512. And then you'd have to try and simplify that, which you could do, maybe. I don't know. It might just be 512, okay? But if you do it the other way, oh, my battery's running low. You have 0.375 times 0.375 times 0.375, and you'd get 0.05. Let's round it to 3. So, oh, and then inches cubed. Now, my guess is that this right here is this. Let's go 27 divided by 512. Yep, it's the exact same thing. So either way you do that one was probably the yuckiest one you're going to see. You can choose to change it into fractions or keep it as, change it into decimals or keep it as fractions, and then just use a calculator to help you multiply straight across. All right, this one is for you. Solve this one and tell me what you get. Go. All right, my volume formula, I did length times width times height, so 4 point, let's do that, 33333 times 8 times 4, and I get 138.6, repeating it looks like, and that's the same as 138 and 2/3 yards cubed or cubic yards. Either one of those is correct. All right, have fun practicing. See you later.